Synthesizer. Fulci. Guys, what's up? Welcome to Serial at Midnight. My name is Heath, and in this video, we are going to discuss the new 3-disc limited edition of Lucio Fulci's House by the Cemetery. Can you guys see what's going on this cover? Can you see the lenticular action? Is it coming through your screen and taking the cereal from your bowl? This is the latest in a line of re-releases, restorations, and re-releases from Blue Underground. This does come from the good folks at Blue Underground, who have been remastering a lot of their more popular horror catalog titles. Here's the thing, technology 10 years ago, 8 years ago even, was not up to par with what it is now, and they can go back to these movies and do 4K restorations and really draw even more out of these film negatives and these film prints that they're sourcing these movies from. So this is a new restoration. We're going to talk more about this restoration in a moment with screenshots. I took plenty of screenshots for you guys. I know so many of you guys are horror fans. I know that I'm talking to a lot of people who know who Fulci is, but I also know that there will be plenty of people who see this video who are not familiar with Fulci. So how do you describe Lucio Fulci and his films to those who might not know? During the 60s and the 70s, he's an Italian filmmaker. He has passed. He was an Italian filmmaker, and in the 60s and 70s, he made a lot of the sexy Italian comedies, the spy movies, spy spoofs, a lot of the Italian cinema. One of the reasons that I love Italian cinema is that it's a reflection of what was popular in Hollywood at the time. That's reflected here too. This movie is heavily influenced by The Shining. But they kind of reflect it back in this very unique Italian, kind of darker, just a little bit askew perspective. And in the 70s, the latter half of the 70s into the 80s, Lucio Fulci really turned his attention to these horror movies, and they're very, very gory. They take great delight in the gore and the details of the gore. Now this one, I think this is the first Fulci movie that I ever saw. I don't remember seeing one prior to this, and this made quite an impression on me. And I'm wondering now, as I'm reviewing this movie via this excellent 3-disc set, if I saw like an edited version, it had plenty of violence in it, but some of the kill scenes just go on and on. I'm like, we're still doing this? How many times can we kill this person? How many ways can we kill this person? Shouldn't they be dead? But that's part of the appeal, because in that gore, I mean, it's like a fun house kind of a thing, right? It doesn't feel we're invited in to enjoy it. It's for our, it's almost like an endurance test. Like Peter Jackson did this in some of his horror movies as well. And it's almost like, how long can you take it before you have to look away? It's very fun and lighthearted. It's not really intended to be mean or ugly. And now New York Ripper is a whole different thing. It's kind of an angry, dark, pessimistic movie. But these that we're talking about here, these are just kind of like exercises in what you can get away with. And I think a lot of our friends in the UK he made a lot of movies that ended up on the Video Nasties list. And so all that goes to say, these movies are they're a very niche audience, but that niche audience really seems to connect with them and love them. So I know there's a lot of interest in this new restoration. So right off the bat, I'm going to tell you guys, well, let's look at the packaging. So the slipcase houses this lovely Blu-ray case with some alternate artwork on it. This does have we have 2 discs. This is the main feature with a commentary. The commentary is by Troy Howarth, I think that's how you pronounce it. He's like an Italian film, a repository of Italian movie knowledge, not just about Fulci, but about like all sorts of Italian genre films. The alternate artwork is the cover artwork. I always switch them around because I like to. Anytime we have, one artwork on a slipcase, I like to flip it around so I have alternate artwork on the disc itself. But we have the 2 discs. This is the feature and the commentary. This is the special features disc, which there's like 2 hours of special features on here. We have a lengthy booklet and the CD soundtrack. And it's flipped upside down. There we go. These synthesizer scores, man, they're fantastic. And so here we have the synthesizer score with all the like wonderful synthesizer. Look, Stranger Things owes a huge debt to movies like this. I'll show you guys just kind of a brief flip through the book. I know we have maybe some gore sensitive people, so I don't want to freak anybody out too much. I'll try to avoid some of the more salacious stuff here. It's a very cool book. This runs probably about 16 pages or so, full of text and full of location photography stuff. So what about the transfer itself? What do I think about the transfer, the new restoration? I think it looks really good. It used to be darker. The previous scan was darker. The new one has been lightened, and it's got a teal push. We're living in a world, I don't really know why necessarily, but we're living in a world where every restoration that comes out, it seems like, has a teal push, like this blue-green push. The restorations of Sergio Leone's Good, the Bad, and the Ugly movies, A Fistful of Dollars for a Few Dollars More, Good, Bad, and Ugly, they all lean towards teal now in a way that I don't know that they ever did before, but that just seems to be what's trendy right now, is teal transfers. So this is very teal. But here's the thing, without having the side-by-side comparisons, it's not super obvious that it's teal, it just looks brighter. So, look, I've already seen a ton of controversy about this transfer on the internet, so I don't really want to take part in that. We have two versions of the film now, you can pick whichever one you like. I am the messenger, but I personally am pretty happy with it. It looks really good. There's this fine, lovely grain detail. I love grain. Sometimes I still hear from people about like, oh, grain is ugly. Why didn't they get rid of that grain? No, never. You love the grain. The grain is what makes the image. Grain is inherent in film. Without grain, there's no picture. The film image is made of grain, how it is exposed to the light, and that's how it works. So I don't want the grain taken away. And when I see a transfer like this that really highlights that grain, you can see the active moving grain. I love it. I think it's the closest thing to being at a drive-in, but you're in your living room and you don't have to worry about what's happening in the car next to you. You also don't have to worry about splices and dropouts and things like that. So I don't know. I think this looks really good. I'm really happy with it. The special features, as I said, they go for about 2 hours. That's not counting the commentary. They talk to just about everyone who survives that was involved in this movie. Of course, Fulci has passed, but they talk to the writers, they talk to the special effects people. That was what was really interesting, is to see how they achieved these special effects in a pre-digital world. Because of course, if you want to have like a severed torso, like a torso with no head and no arms, you gotta build that bad boy. So they just really talk about how they did it. There's a gimmick where someone gets a knife through the back of the head and the knife tip comes out of their mouth. Sounds like that'd be relatively easy, but circa 1980, not so much. They have to talk about like this device that they built and how it took like 30 days of filming this shot to get this right, because the actor was having a gag reflex. Super fascinating stuff. What I love about special features like this is really the inside story, when you find out what's actually, we talk all the time about so many modern movies. The special features are all puff. You're not getting any truth. You're not really getting anything to do with the making of the movie, because they want to control that narrative. They want to control what information you get to know. But special features like this really highlight how it was actually done, because how they did it then is not how you would do it now, and it's just really interesting to capture that art and that magic. So they talk to the cast, they talk to I'll tell you some of this. The interviews with the stars, the adults and the children who are now completely grown. Interview with the co-writers, interview with the cinematographer, with the makeup effects artist. There's Catriona MacColl is the co-star of this movie. There's a Q&A from a UK-based Italian movie festival. It's about 30 minutes long, where she talked to the audience there. There's a roughly 20-minute special feature called Calling Dr. Freudstein, interview with Stephen Thrower, author of Beyond Terror, the films of Lucio Fulci. So he places, this really essential for us, who he places House by the Cemetery in the career of Fulci, compares it to some of the other works. This really was kind of a shorter period for Fulci. It didn't last that long. Like, he made 3 of these horror movies roughly in the span of about a year, and then it was kind of on to a different sort of thing. So I don't know, that's just, I love when we have retrospectives from people who know, from people who are experts and who have done the work. So, that's really all I'm going to say about this release. I want to be relatively brief with this, 10, 11, 12 minutes. I think it's fantastic. I highly recommend it. If you can get your hands on it, I do think you should, if you're into Italian horror, cult horror genre film, stuff like that. So I'm going to put a link to this in the video description below what you're watching, and that'll save you some of the effort if you want to just scroll down. It'll be right there to pick up. But Serial at Midnight recommends House by the Cemetery, and it's a cool jumping off point for some of Fulci's other work. I would even say, we talked earlier about his older movies. I would say go back to some of those 60s and 70s fun movies, because I know Fulci is known by so many horror fans as like the gory horror guy, but he made a lot of comedy stuff too, and those movies are fun as well. There's something so uniquely Italian about his earlier work as well. I think it's worth exploring his whole career. So that's what I got to say about that. Guys, thank you so much for hanging out and talking about House by the Cemetery. Hey, if you've seen the movie, what do you think it means? What's up with the ending? It's an Italian movie with a very ambiguous, it's not really ambiguous for most of the movie, but then at the end it's just like, oh, very, Italian movies are very dreamlike, and this movie just kind of ends on it's very questionable about what actually we're seeing at the end of the movie. You guys have any theories? Guys, thank you so much for hanging out. I do appreciate you. Take care, and until next time, I will catch you later.